Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's election forum from the position of Pueblo County Sheriff. My name is Steve Henson. I'm the managing editor at the Pueblo Chieftain newspaper, which is sponsoring the event tonight in cooperation with Action 22, the 2020 Commission's Governance Task Force, Pueblo Community College's Center for New Media, and of course the beautiful Pueblo Memorial Hall. A few ground rules before we get started. Each candidate will have a couple of minutes to introduce themselves to you and explain why they are running for office and seeking your vote. Then we'll ask a series of questions that have been submitted by readers of the Chieftain. We will not be taking questions from the audience. Frankly, we've had some real bad experiences in that in the past, and I think all of us know how polarizing and difficult politics have become, and we're just not going to let the candidates get ambushed. Feel free to talk to them afterwards or in a different setting, but we will pose questions that have been submitted by readers of the Chieftain. After they've introduced themselves and we've gone through the series of questions and rebuttals on each question, if there are some, then we'll have closing remarks from each candidate. We encourage you, if you want to clap and hoop and holler and support your candidate, that's fine. We really discourage you from trying to disrupt the opponent, the person that you don't support, and heckle them or in any way ridicule them. Anyone willing to run for public office deserves our respect in the first place for being willing to go through this, to service, to put their families through this experience. And so let's try to respect both candidates this evening, and I'd sure appreciate your cooperation in that endeavor. Okay, we did a coin flip, and Kirk won the coin flip, and he chose to conclude the event tonight. So we will have opening remarks from Vic Boley. Vic?
Thank you, Mr. Henson, and I want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors, too, and everybody for being here tonight. My name is Vic Boley, and I'm one of the candidates for sheriff. I've called Pueblo my home for more than 50 years. I was raised out in the Baxter Devine area. After me and my beautiful wife got married, we raised our two beautiful daughters out on the St. Charles Mesa. I retired from the sheriff's office about 3.5 years ago after over 28 years of service there. I stay busy. I continued on as a reserve deputy, and I teach part-time at the Pueblo Community College Law Enforcement Training Academy. During my career, I worked in detention, transportation, patrol, and I did some narcotics investigations. I was a field training officer and instructor in a lot of different skill sets in law enforcement. I was a canine handler and a supervisor for over 20 years. I was cross-designated as a Southern Colorado DEA Drug Task Force member and cross-designated as U.S. Customs. As a senior sergeant, I also had many administrative responsibilities. I wrote and managed many grants for equipment and overtime. I have 30 years of job-based education and over 5,700 hours of documented training in various skill sets. Recently, my opponent commented to the Pueblo Chieftain there's much more to being the sheriff than what I believed there was. And he made mention it was more complicated than street-level law enforcement. But street-level law enforcement, that's the heart and the strength of our organization. It's where law enforcement and the community come together. My background and my street-level experience is why I'm the best choice for sheriff, and I'm asking for your vote.
We'll now have opening remarks from Kirk Taylor. Kirk?
Good evening, and thank you all for being here tonight. For the past 8 years, I've had the honor and the privilege of representing this community as its sheriff. That is a responsibility that I have taken seriously and hope that on November the 4th, I will have the opportunity to continue that representation. I want to thank the Pueblo Chieftain, my opponent, Mr. Henson, for facilitating this debate on behalf of the citizens of our community. During my first 2 terms as sheriff, we've accomplished many things that benefit the public safety of our community. I have led a wonderful group of hardworking individuals who have dedicated themselves to this community the safety and the security. I've enhanced the capabilities of the Law Enforcement Bureau through equipment, training, personnel, assignments, and flat put more boots on the street. We've solved every major crime that has occurred in my tenure, thanks to the efforts of an incredible patrol division, detectives, and my leadership team. The capabilities of the Detention Bureau have been enhanced through training, programs, staffing. We've achieved 2 national accreditations and a nationally recognized mental health program that I'd like to speak some more about later. I've expanded the capabilities of my search and rescue responsibility by enhanced training and equipment, as well as a collaboration with other counties and the state. Included in this is the purchasing of equipment to better respond to all areas in the South region with our dive team. I was able to obtain funding for a new emergency operations center completed earlier this year. This funding was secured over a period of 2 years of negotiations between FEMA, me, and my staff. We received a total of $18.5 million and built one of the finest and most responsive emergency operations centers in the Southwest United States. There are just a few things that I hope to expand upon tonight. Thank you.
We'll now begin the question and answer portion of the program. Vic, you'll handle the first one. The two of you have worked together for several years. If you were doing a professional evaluation of your opponent, what would it be?
If I was doing an evaluation of my opponent, I would say that his heart's in the right place, but a lot of what he's doing isn't what I would call positive leadership. Kirk is more of a it's my way or the highway kind of guy. He expects to give orders and expects you to fill it out, which rank and file, you need to do that to a certain extent. But we still need a leader out there to lead by example. We need somebody that will say, let's go take that hill, not go take that hill. He has his positive, but then again, that I wouldn't be running if I didn't think that we could do better.
Kirk?
If I were to evaluate Vic's leadership abilities or professional evaluation, I would say that he is an extremely capable and hardworking sergeant. A very hardworking deputy when he was a deputy. He was a very hardworking sergeant, both prior to my arrival as well as during the period of time that he worked for me. He was always there for the overtime, specifically the dam overtime that we used to have that everybody liked. He was a very good worker. He got along with his coworkers very well. He had some issues with his supervision capabilities. He supervised a group of 4 deputies. It was difficult to get him to supervise his troop. I find it strange that he wants to supervise the entire agency. But as far as his capabilities as a sergeant, I don't know that we had any better or harder worker.
Vic, do you have a rebuttal to that?
No, sir. Thank you, Kirk.
Okay. Kirk, anything else on that?
No.
Okay. Kirk, you'll handle this one first. Each of you has acknowledged the issue of jail overcrowding and also the limitations of the current aging jail. What is your plan to fix those issues?
Over my first 2 months in office, I was able to obtain a $1.2 million appropriation from then Congressman Salazar to address the physical plant itself. We have a very hardworking facilities crew. Over the past 8 years, we've put in for many, many improvements in our jail. Our infrastructure is failing, and they've really done yeoman's work to try to keep it up to snuff. We have been trying to get additional funding, of which I was able to be somewhat successful on to fix our showers. We have done a fantastic, well, Chief Alcala and her staff, I got to tell you, they have done a fantastic job in keeping this jail, extending the life of this jail. If you remember the previous sheriff, it was gloom and doom, and the jail was, they needed a brand new one. I don't say that. I say we haven't done exactly everything that we can to utilize this jail for our community. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of the pretrial services program. I've been very intimately involved with a group that includes Judge Eiler, Chief Velez, the district attorney, the head of the public defender's office, the head of probation, to come up with a solution that we believe is evidence-based decision-making on identifying those people through a matrix in the courts, identifying those individuals who need to be in jail for public safety risk, and those people who are currently in our jail that could be out of our jail on pretrial services if there was some supervision piece on it for low-level offenders. There's no reason to incarcerate low-level offenders. All the research in the field says that if you continue to incarcerate low-level offenders, they have a 70% more risk of recidivizing or coming back to jail. We don't want that. We want to identify this jail for our community and not for the low-level offenders.
Okay, Vic?
You know, I started at the sheriff's office in 1982, right after the jail opened, so I've kind of experienced a lot of it. I worked in it when it was a 189-bed facility, and now, you know, it's a bustling over 600 prisoners in there on any given day. So it is a problem. The previous administration, Dan Corsentino, he identified that as the overcrowding as being a problem. And he tried to get some help from the county commissioners, and we had the little dorm put on the side, which was a Band-Aid, but it helped a little bit. But in Mr. Taylor's 2 terms, we've done nothing to seriously address it. We need to come up with maybe some alternative incarcerations for the low level and pretrial nonviolent offenders. Start looking outside the box and exploring different buildings or something that we can move into. Of course, that's going to bring its own problems with separating staff and asking for more staff. But what's going to be more expensive, doing that or creating a new building for it? So. Maybe think outside of the box, exploring different things. The old judicial building, I'm not sure what the plans is for that. Maybe some other public buildings, some of the empty schools or something for some housing. And they're demilitarizing a lot of the igloos and stuff out at the Army or chemical depot. When the mustard's gas out, let's start some igloo cities out there, start our own trend.
Kirk, any other thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I'd like